How's it going, all you minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for your advanced look at all of these collected editions coming out from Marvel Comics this week. So, stay tuned. Before going any further, I want to thank David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us an advanced copy of all of these books coming out the week of Tuesday, April 11th, or Wednesday, April 12th, depending on where you get your books. Now, we have a variety of things. We have some trade paperbacks, we have a couple of epic collections, Mighty Marvel Masterworks make a return, and a digest-sized book. And if you're interested in just a couple of these, I do put timestamps in the description of the video letting you know when I'm going to be talking about the book, or in case you don't want any kind of spoilers at all going in. So let's go ahead and start with the Mighty Marvel Masterworks. This is the most recent volume of Thor. So kicking off this week's books is the Mighty Marvel Masterworks Thor, Volume 3. So we have the standard edition cover over here by Leonardo Romero, and then the direct market cover supplied by Jack Kirby. Both of them having the exact same content on the inside, but looking different on the dress of the trade. So we'll just be looking at this one. By the way, these are smaller size, so let's compare it to the size of a standard edition trade paperback over here on the left hand side, which is the trim size of a single issue comic. So to kind of get you an idea as to the size of this book right here. Almost wanted to talk about this. This is X-Men. I always want to talk about X-Men, but let's talk about Thor. So here we have Thor Volume 3, and as I mentioned, everything else on the inside is identical. Other Mighty Marvel Masterworks, including Volume 1 and 2 of Thor, Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Vince Colletta, Chick Stone. My kids and I just recorded our Hulk Mighty Marvel Masterworks review of Volume 1. Then they're working on, what are they working on next? They've already read Namor, and they're working on Captain Marvel right now. So we'll be recording those at a later time. This collects Journey into Mystery 110 to 119, and by now we've had the Tales of Asgard as a backup for all of these issues. And this is a really interesting collection. I'm curious what they think about this particular era of Thor, because here we have more of Loki in these stories, and more of a buildup of Loki, and showcasing how truly the god of lies and mischief and trickery he is. But we have a lot of other moments in here. We have a flashback. I think this is a really cool issue. Issue number 112. Yeah, right here. This is a really cool issue because it's a flashback to Avengers number 3. However, this time around it shows what happened when Thor and Hulk were separated from Namor and all the other Avengers. And it answers the question, is Thor as strong as Hulk? And what exactly happens when these two titans collide? You have an appearance by Cobra, you have an appearance by the Grey Gargoyle, and again, more Tales of Asgard when they were younger. And then issues 18, or 118 and 119, the last few issues in here, are the introduction of the Destroyer. Now, the Destroyer is a little bit different than what some people think from the movies, if you're coming from the movies. He's a big, unstoppable force, and it's a force that not even Odin can control. So this particular Mighty Marvel Masterworks retails for $15.99, and it has 232 pages. Let's look at the extras here. Just a couple of pages of original artwork, including this right here, which was not just a shirt, but they also used it as a cover to the omnibus. Alright, let's keep going with Nova, Sam Alexander. Now, probably noticed that this is another one of those digest-sized books. It is also a little bit cheaper. This one here retails for $13.99. But again, it's a smaller size book compared to those trade paperbacks. These are standard size, the size of single issues. And these are just a little bit smaller here. So, something like that is what you are going to be expecting. So this here collects the Jeff Loeb and Ed McGuinness character of Sam Alexander, who is the new Nova. Now, the most important thing to keep in mind when reading this, if you've never read a single issue of Nova, is all this takes place after the Thanos Imperative. after the modern classic cosmic era of Marvel. Is that right? Modern classic? No, the modern cosmic saga of Marvel Comics. So it's after those events because something happens to that particular Nova. Now, growing up, of course, my Nova was always Richard Rider. I love that character. He was my Nova in the New Warriors, and then eventually, of course, I went back to read his series, and it was just a Nova that I grew up with. And we saw a little bit of the Nova Corps during those particular issues of both New Warriors and of Nova. But for the first time, we get to see them in full force during that Annihilation, and of course, Conquest, and whenever they make a reappearance. But by now, it's already established that they are a huge military force out there in space. So we meet the character of Sam Alexander. He's growing up with his mom, his kid's sister, and his dad. And a little bit of a secret is that his dad used to be a member of the Nova Corps. As a matter of fact, all these are flashbacks of his father. And he ends up with his dad's helmet. This is your stereotypical type of superhero, Marvel superhero at that, where the kid is being bullied at school, he doesn't have a lot of friends, and he acquires these powers by mere accident when he trips over his skateboard when he's like, I'm gonna go find my father. Oh, but before he trips, his dad goes missing. That's why he's rushing out there, because he's looking for his dad. He doesn't know exactly where his dad is, and you as the reader also don't know. His dad just kind of disappears, because he doesn't quite believe his dad until he wakes up from the hospital bed, and he has a talking raccoon and a fine-looking green lady right there standing over him with a sword and asking him about his father. And that's kind of what kicks off the adventures of Sam Alexander as the new Nova. This collects Nova, the 2013 series 1 through 9. It also has material from Point 1 in here, and then Marvel Now Point 1 number 1, and Nova number 10. So Jeff Loeb wrote the first 5 issues, and it was drawn by Ed McGuinness, and then eventually Zeb Wells and Paco Medina took over the book. And yeah, I actually enjoyed this. Like I said, that was my point. My point was that I was a big fan of Richard Rider. And I'm not going to go into spoilers as to what happened to him or how he's missing from these particular stories, why he's not showing up. And there is a reason that's explained later on, and that can be found in the pages of Guardians of the Galaxy by Brian Michael Bendis. But the kid really grew on me. I like Sam Alexander. And of course, he's named after Jeff Loeb's son. He lost his son to cancer at a very young age. And damn, man, life is not fair. So he named this character after his son. And as I mentioned, he drew the first 5 issues, he wrote the first 5 issues. And in here, Zeb Wells brings in other characters too, like Diamond Head, which is an old foe from Richard Rider's Nova. You have a couple of old friends of Richard Rider, Vance Astrovic. It's not the only part of the video I'm going to be talking about that character. Known as Justice, Marvel Boy during his era of New Warriors, and then of course Speedball. So, oh gosh, this is long after Civil War and that whole Dark Reign Thunderbolts Penance era. Yeah, I know people love that, but for me, not the biggest fan of that stuff. I did want to come back to this right here to showcase exactly where the Point 1 issue is. And this, of course, sets up the whole Avengers vs. X-Men story, written by Jeff Loeb and drawn by Ed McGuinness. And there we have the number 1 variant right there. And I was just talking about Diamond Head. But this is what the artwork looks like. There's no extras in the back. Does Richard Rider show up through these pages? Does Sam ever find out where it happened to his dad after he finds his helmet? Well, one way to find out. Now, this book retails for $13.99, and it has 240 pages. Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings. And this is continuing the most recent era of the character of Shang-Chi. This book retails for $24.99, and it collects issues of Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings 1 through 6, and then Shang-Chi Master of the 10 Rings. And that's just a one-shot. All written by Jinlin Yang. The 5-issue miniseries is drawn by Marcos To. And he is one of my favorite artists to come from this era. I love his work on Excalibur. And what's going on with the character of Shang-Chi? Well, a lot of things are going wrong since he has kind of taken over his father's role. He's gained possession of course, the 10 rings in the previous issues. So now everybody is going after him. Not just bounty hunters like Razor Fist, but I'm talking about organizations like the Hand, Hydra, and the Red Dot Collective. AIM is going after him, the Inner Demons, and just to name a few of these characters. Now, what ends up happening in this miniseries is we see some returning characters from the past. I mean, if you've read the old school Master Kung Fu stories, you're going to see a lot of returning characters. I'm not going to spoil some of them, but I will spoil a couple, and one of them is Leiko Wu, who shows up, who was kind of like his old girlfriend, but then she kind of ran off with another one of his friends, Clive Reston, who also shows up. Now, we haven't seen those characters in a long time, and those are old characters. That's from the original, like, Doug Minch and Paul Gulacsi era. So we're talking about, like, the mid-70s when those characters showed up. But that's who comes and kind of needs his help, right? Like, you have the character of Clive, who was his friend, and he is kidnapped, and his old flame, Leiko Wu, is like, hey, I need some help, please. And meanwhile, he's going through his own inner struggle, too, because these 10 rings are kind of possessing him, and they're kind of making him evil. He doesn't know exactly how to control that power. And then we also have a big tournament that's about to take place. So if you're a big fan of Dragon Ball Z, that gave me a lot of classic, not just Dragon Ball Z, but also Dragon Ball vibes of the tournaments. And then you have the one-shot, which I'm just going to show a couple of pages all the way in the back here. This is the Master of the 10 Rings one-shot, and it's drawn by Michael Ying. And this is more of a historical side of things, of how the 10 rings have worked. Now, this book, again, retails for $24.99. Let's look at the extras. So you do have some variant covers. And it has 168 pages. And I'm not sure if there's a new ongoing series or not, but we've had a lot of this modern stuff with Jinlo and Yang writing the stories. It's a cute Jeff the Land Shark variant. And there we go. And there's the new Iron Fist series. And I think that one's by Alyssa Wong. But that is Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings. Here we have Ghost Rider Shadow Country. I was just talking to one of my viewers on my live stream on Saturday about this series. They were asking me about it. And honestly, I thought it was coming out later. I just happened to be reading it this past week. But this is volume 2. And I thought volume 1, as I was reading it, was a one-off. I thought it was a one-trade paperback. It was just a mini-series. So it made me really happy to see that it continues. So this collects issues of Ghost Rider from 2022, 6 through 10, and Ghost Rider Vengeance Forever. Ghost Rider, the first volume of this new series by Benjamin Percy, almost made it in my top 10 best reads of 2022. I thought it was great. I thought it was dark, and it still surprises me that this is rated like Teen Plus, I think is what they give it. Yeah, T Plus. And there are some grotesque things in here. So we kick it off with the later part of the Wolverine team-up issue, where Wolverine comes and digs something out of Johnny Blaze. And if you watch my overview of the first trade paperback, there's this whole confusion as to, is Johnny Blaze really the spirit of vengeance? You know, what exactly is he? I need to talk about this right here, because I love the way that this is placed. And, well, it's all clarified by the time you get to the second or third issue. So by now we're on issue 6 through 10. So this is Vengeance Forever, which is a one-shot. It's not an annual. I don't know why it's not an annual, but it doesn't matter. I thought it was a really excellent story. I love the fact that they're having the glow-in-the-dark cover. It's not glow-in-the-dark. Well, I don't know. Maybe if you have the single issue, it was glow-in-the-dark. But they have the classic Danny Ketch Ghost Rider right there. So this is the story about how Johnny Blaze gets the help of this character known as Necro, the tattooist, who is drawing tattoos on Johnny Blaze. But each tattoo has a story, and each tattoo story is tied into the past of the spirit of vengeance. So I just talked about Danny Ketch. That's my Ghost Rider growing up, and it's sure enough, Danny Ketch is in this particular story. Sort of like a flashback, and kind of letting you know about all the different characters in case you want to play catch up with what exactly Ghost Rider is and who has already donned the character. Why is he connected to a cosmic Ghost Rider? Why is Robbie Reyes another Ghost Rider during the pages of Jason Aaron's Thor? Well, a lot of it is answered there. And it just made me happy to see the character of Danny Ketch appear, which, he has been. So then we see a continuation of the story, but this time around, we have Johnny Blaze now teaming up with Agent Talia Warroad. And, she has her own secrets and her own powers, and they're trying to stop this demon that's coming after everybody. And in this story, you get to see exactly who's pulling the strings and who is the puppet master, if you will, behind everything, behind all the demons, behind Johnny Blaze's confusion. And yes, even though Wolverine's on the cover, he's only in just issue number 6. But that's all I will say about this. Definitely a good read. Not as good as the first volume, which I kind of expected that because, well, I have the same experience with everything I've read by Benjamin Percy with Green Arrow or Wolverine or his X-Force books. But it was still a good read. I enjoyed it. And let's look at the extras here. Just glad we have an ongoing Ghost Rider series. Because we sure could use some omnis, whether it's Johnny Blaze, Danny Ketch, or Robbie Reyes. Or even the Phantom Rider. I'm becoming a big fan of Maria Wolf's art. I saw her... Where did I see her? I saw her at New York Comic Con, and she had some original art that she had for sale, and oh my gosh, it was awesome. That is a really cool homage cover by Phil Noto. Dan Panosian. Alright, let's check out these spines. And before we go any further, here's the moment where we show off all the spines of the books coming out this week, plus let you know to smash that like button, or rather, remind you to subscribe, hit that like button, and ring that bell for notifications, please. It goes a long way for us here on our channel. It's a very small thing you can do, but it really does mean a lot here. So here's all the spines, making sure the glare's off of the books. There we go. Alright, let's continue with the overview and look at these epics. Guardians of the Galaxy Epic Collection. The very first epic collection of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Volume 1, Earth Shall Overcome. My daughter cracked me up, Alicia. She looked at this when I was reading it, because I have all my books on stacks, and this was at the top of the stack a couple of weeks ago. And she said, "Who are those guys? Those aren't the Guardians of the Galaxy." So I had to sit her down and give her a little bit of a history lesson. That's how the Guardians started. So you may have the same question as she did. Who are these guys? Those aren't the Guardians of the Galaxy. Well, these are the original Guardians of the Galaxy. We're going back to 1967 with their first appearance. And it was written by Arnold Drake, right here. This gentleman right here. And drawn by Gene Colan. And this gives us a really weird introduction to some new characters. Some obscure characters, including Charlie 27. So let's talk about what's collected in here first. So, as you know, Marvel Superheroes number 18 is in here. Marvel 2-in-1, 4 and 5. Giant Size Defenders number 5. Defenders 26 through 29. There's a lot of Defenders in this one. Marvel Presents 3 through 12. And Thor Annual number 6. This book has 408 pages and retails for $39.99. Now, the stuff in here has been previously collected in the Guardians of the Galaxy Omnibus, the classic Guardians of the Galaxy Omnibus. It's also been collected in the trade paperback Avengers of Tomorrow. I think it's what it was called, the Avengers of Tomorrow. I used to have it, and then I got the Omnibus, so... Tomorrow's Avengers, not Avengers of Tomorrow. Tomorrow's Avengers is what it was called. Alright, so we're introduced to some obscure characters. Charlie 27 right here. You find out through some caption boxes and inner monologue that, hey, he is an Earthman in the year 3000, but he has developed this body because he is from the planet Jupiter. He lives on Jupiter, and he's going back to Jupiter, and he notices that, hey, Jupiter's been invaded by these creatures, these aliens known as the Badoon. The Badoon have played a big important part in comics in Marvel Comics anyway, for a long time, many years. And there he meets this character right here, who is also an evolved Earthman from the year 3000, so all this taking place again in the year 3000. But His name is Martinex, and he comes from the planet Pluto. That's why his body looks like that. So these two X-humans, if you will, not X like the letter X, but EX-humans, come back to Earth because they're wondering what's going on Earth. Have the Badoon done something on Earth if Jupiter's being invaded? And sure enough, yeah, the Badoon are sitting trying to conquer Earth, and they've got these two obscure characters there. One guy they keep calling Major Vance Astrovic, and the other guy named Yondu. And I'll talk a little bit about Yondu here in a second, but let's talk about Vance Astrovic because he has a very interesting story. He was a kid in the 80s, 1988. I love how these things are dated. And he just wanted to be frozen, put to sleep, cryogenic sleep, for 1,000 years. So by the time he wakes up, he can travel. He can go to space. However, when he woke up, he found out that Earthlings had already traveled to space. And the space travel was discovered 200 years after he went to sleep. So he was like, oh, oh damn, I just threw away my girlfriend, my family, and my home for nothing. So not during these particular issues right here, but later on he will become the character known as Major Victory. And then we have the character of Yondu. So Yondu has a very similar power to, where is he from? Centuria 4. And he has a very similar power to that of his movie counterpart, that he can control the arrow with whistling. And together, these four characters team up to stop the Badoon. And they keep saying, Earth shall overcome. So this is the year 3000's last hope, known as the Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, we don't see these cats for a long time. These four characters later on show up in Marvel Team Up, where we have Captain America, Ben Grimm, Sharon. I love the fact that they use Sharon in this story, to travel to the future, along with this young lady right here, who comes from the future to let them know that, hey, the future's messed up. The Badoon have taken over the future. And they end up getting kidnapped while she goes and gets the help of the Guardians of the Galaxy. So we hadn't seen the Guardians of the Galaxy for a long time, but they make a return in this particular story right here with the Marvel 2-in-1. Again, they go missing for a while. Then we have giant-sized defenders, which reintroduces us to the Guardians of the Galaxy. This time around, they're living on our time, and we're introduced to this young lad right here, who will play a big, important part in the Guardians of the Galaxy. And there's a lot of defenders in here. And this is more of the story of the Guardians of the Galaxy against the Badoon. But here, we do meet a brand new character named Starhawk, who has his own secrets, which I'm not going to go into, and some very unique secrets, who will later become a full-blown member of the Guardians of the Galaxy. So much so that after the Defenders issues, they star in their own kind of ongoing series without it being called an ongoing series. But in Marvel Presents #3, we have the Guardians of the Galaxy. And now we have Charlie 27, Yondu, Martin X, Major Vance Astrovic, and this gentleman right here, Starhawk. Or Vance Astro, I guess, if you will. Now, I mentioned Vance Astro in the pages of Nova. That is the character that becomes Marvel Boy. That is the character that becomes Justice in New Warriors. And that is the character that will eventually pick up the shield and become Major Victory in the Guardians of the Galaxy, the year 3000. We meet one more character that will join them, and that is this young lady right there, Nikki. And she will be with the Guardians of the Galaxy for a long time to come. Now, you have Arnold Drake start writing the series, and then you have Steve Gerber taking over writing Guardians of the Galaxy, mainly because they featured in his Defenders title, but then they went on to do the Marvel Presents issues, and then you have Roger Stern taking over these stories right here. So by now, the Guardians of the Galaxy are kind of all over the place. They're in the future, they're in the past, they're out there finding new Marvel characters to team up with. So don't expect the same kind of characters that showed up in the movie to be in these particular issues. By the way, forgot to mention this, that sometimes the covers that are usually kept as extras in the back are on the opposite side of the standard edition covers here, or the only covers they had at the time. But this was really interesting. I mean, this is such an obscure amount of characters together. What I liked about this issue of Thor, this is annual number 6, this is written by Len Wein and Roger Stern. Sal Buscema drawing this, is that the Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm not going to say who the big bad is in this or anything, but they find Thor in the same way they find Thor in Avengers Infinity War, just floating in space, and then they de-thaw his body. But this time around, of course, there's no Star-Lord, there's no Gamora, and matter of fact, this is just a few years before Gamora, but there's no Drax the Destroyer or Rocket Raccoon. That comes later. Those characters are the Guardians of the Galaxy during the modern cosmic era of Marvel Comics. So again, this book right here retails for $39.99. Let's look at the extras. And it has 408 pages. This is the Astonishing Tales number 29 that came out in 1975. Reprinting Marvel Superheroes number 18 with a new color on that Gene Colan artwork. This is Marvel Presents Letter Pages, which they don't usually print letter pages. Here is an article by Steve Gerber from Foom, number 21. Original artwork here by Sal Buscema. Rich Buckler, Al Milgrom. And yes, Guardians of the Galaxy Tomorrow's Avengers, not Avengers of Tomorrow. That's volume 2, and volume 1 was before one of these. I can't find it right now, but yes, it's before one of these covers. So if you've never read this before, this is one heck of a treat. I really enjoy the stories in here. That's why I upgraded to the omnibus for the classic Guardians of the Galaxy stories. These are those characters that Jim Valentino would revive in the 90s, and I remember reading these in some of these in single issues. This is more thoroughly collected because it has the Defenders. But if you've never read this, and if you're at all interested in the cosmic side of things, or maybe the possible future side of things from the Marvel Universe in the 70s, by all means check this out. That's why this one here gets the Near Mint Condition seal of approval this week. And yes, you are in for a treat if you have never read the stories in here. And especially the origin of Starhawk, it's pretty complicated. Yeah, Nikki grew on me. She got on my nerves at first, but she did grow on me. Last, but certainly not least, X-Men Epic Collection Legacies. This is volume 22. So this happens after Executioner's Song. This is $44.99, and it has 488 pages. Collecting Uncanny X-Men 297 to 300, X-Men Annual number 7, or Uncanny X-Men Annual number 17, Adjective List X-Men 17 through 23, The Strife Strike File, and X-Men Unlimited number 1. So, if you're watching my channel, you know I call myself the Uncanny Omar. I love X-Men. You're probably wondering, wait a minute, Omar, why the heck did you give Guardians of the Galaxy your seal of approval and not X-Men? I'm not a fan of all the stories in X-Men. As a matter of fact, I wasn't a fan of a lot of the things that happened through here, and to talk about them goes into spoiler territory, and I don't really want to dive into that, but that's why I did not get it. So you have the story in the aftermath of Executioner's Song. Professor Xavier, people love this story. This is, if you ask a lot of people, especially those that read X-Men in the 90s, like what some of their favorite X-Men stories, this is in a lot of people's top 20 stories. But Professor X has a side effect to the techno-organic virus that he was given in the Executioner's Song that almost killed him. He has the ability to walk. So I know this one here is a big tearjerker for a lot of people, but has a really good moment with Jubilee. Then we move on to Strife Strike File. Now this is read mostly like this. This is really cool because this is the first appearance of Holocaust. Keep in mind, this is right after Executioner's Song and before Age of Apocalypse. So in between, to kind of give you an idea, in between Executioner's Song and Age of Apocalypse, you have, if you're collecting this in oversized hardcover format, you have Shattershot, Fatal Attraction, Cyclops and Phoenix, The Wedding of Cyclops and Phoenix, The Phalanx Covenant, Legion Quest, and then you have Age of Apocalypse. And you have this character right here that drove me nuts as an X-head. Like, when is that character going to appear? I don't understand why that character hasn't appeared. Is he somebody that I'm supposed to know? There was another character in here, too, that shows up. So these are just files from Strife's desk. Like, he's writing about all these characters that are going to play important roles in the lives of the X-Men, like Great and Creed. What happened to that guy? This young lady right here, Threnody. I remember that one also driving me crazy. I'm like, when is she going to appear? Now, luckily for a lot of us X-heads, she did appear soon after this particular issue was published. But I remember when I was reading this, I was like, oh my gosh, Fabian, your words, my dude. I'm not, I'm not, I'm not saying big words are bad, but it feels like Strife was just so overusing those dollar words. I mean, he was in here with some poetic stuff. Play the game with me one last time, mirror friend. That's what he refers to Cable as. But right here, the shades of me, shades of you, shades of them. Let the final moves be made. Let time determine the righteousness of my path. Like this line up here. See my reflection, mirror foe. Look at your face staring at you with scars carved in pain and hopelessness. Sneer as the glint of metal catches your eye and ask yourself what you are fighting for. Humanity, mutants, it's just deep, man. But anyway, maybe I'm the only one that thought that. I'm like, man, Fabian's trying to win some kind of award. Then you have the X-Men head over to the Soviet Union. And, well, this is the Soul Skinner. That was his name. I'm trying to remember his name. Again, you have some of the extras or some of the other covers on the opposite side of the ongoing series. Yeah, right here, the Skinner of Souls. So that storyline that brings in Omega Red, fighting that character. You have this relationship between Jean Grey and Cyclops, kind of like drifting apart from each other because of this character of Psylocke that she's crushing on Cyclops. Why exactly? Get to find out. It's a lot deeper than that. Then you have the return of a couple of characters, and oh my gosh, I remember this making me angry. Like Sharon Friedlander right there, young lady from Chris Claremont's run, Tom Corsi, young man from Chris Claremont's run, and they're kind of just used to introduce the badassness that is the Acolytes. So the Acolytes are also back. The Game Master's still playing his game. As a matter of fact, the game is about to hit a big old mark with the X-Men Unlimited book, which we'll get to in a second. There's Uncanny X-Men 300, and I just realized, I'm sorry, I'm talking about each of these books. I shouldn't be doing that. John Romita Jr. stepping in now as the ongoing artist of Uncanny X-Men. It's the epilogue with Fabian Cortez, and then we get X-Men Unlimited. I love the way this is mapped, by the way. I'm so jealous. I've mentioned this before, because I have these in oversized hardcover format, and I end up giving these away, but the epics are just mapped so much better. Like, I'm sure one day we'll have Uncanny X-Men Omnibus Volume, I guess this will be, 13? And we'll have this mapped like this. But that's gonna be years. But anyway, yeah. Very jealous of the Epic people for the mapping on this book alone. No letter pages, though. No letter pages. This is during Andy Kubert's art. Like, his starting to change. He was getting new inkers. Oh, yes. Revenge. This young lady here. Why does she look like Psylocke? Who exactly is she? Oh, you can find out. And now you start getting hints of the legacy virus. There are characters that are getting sick. Mainly mutants that are getting sick. And that leads into the whole legacy virus that, for a lot of us, overstayed its welcome. There's Matsuo. Mr. Sinister messing around with Cyclops. The Dark Riders, always been a big fan of those guys. I think they were underutilized, honestly. And then, this was my first look at Jason Pearson's artwork. He passed away late last year, but we didn't find out until this year from his family. So, yeah, big damn loss to the comic book community. I was a big fan of his art. But this was the first time I ever saw it. With the introduction of this guy right here, Executioner. Nothing to do with the Executioner song. Killing mutants left and right and capturing their weapons. Or acquiring their weapons. This is also the first mention of Bishop's sister, Shard. It's her first appearance. And all of this could be an illusion, maybe, by somebody. Because we have the Ice Master. I remember this right here. I thought it was pretty cool because during Inferno, Professor Xavier made a comment like, you know, sometimes watching Iceman do his thing, he didn't say that, but he was like, use his power like this, makes me think that one day Bobby, if he wanted to, could freeze the world. And I thought that's such a powerful way of thinking about a character, you know, somebody you raised as a son and doesn't know their full potential. So I thought Ice Master here was kind of like it's Bobby Drake's full potential. So we also have Tom Grumet, little backup story with Fitzroy right there, some pin-up artwork, and then the extras in the back. Mainly from the magazine, which there were a lot of X-Men magazines. Oh, the things to come. Man, the teases. This right here. I remember getting this and getting so excited for the big Avengers X-Men crossover. And then, of course, what would become Fatal Attractions. And that was the first time I saw this character right here, Exodus, who then later on appeared in X Factor number 92. I was excited about Joe Mad, who was, to me, one of the best new artists. I didn't care what he was drawing. I was ripping pages out of comics to hang them up on my wall, even though I didn't want to keep the rest of that Marvel Comics Presents for some reason. But I loved his art, and I was so excited about Deadpool, because back then we didn't have a lot of Deadpool. We had Deadpool show up from time to time, but when Fabian Nicieza started writing the dialogue for Deadpool, which is, okay, I'm sorry. When he took full control of the character of Deadpool, he always wrote the dialogue for Deadpool since his first appearance. I just thought, man, he was less of a merc and more of a funnier character. And I wanted to see more of him, and sure enough, you know, we got a couple of miniseries, then he got his own ongoing series. But yeah, this teased us, you know, there are things to come. This teased us things that never came out, too. Like a TechNet series. Do y'all remember that? Or Wolverine the Killing? Never came out. There's another Joe Mad piece, which later on became the card for the Fatal Attractions crossover. To issue, what was that, 71 of Excalibur. This Marvel Age. I love the fact that they used the Jim Lee piece right here for this picture of Sauron. Again, this were just rumors because it's Marvel Age. And that's going to be collected. And the swimsuit! You know, we have the Summer of the Symbiote. Now it's time to bring back the Summer of the Swimsuits, baby. Oh my goodness. There's eye candy in here for everybody. Oh, what is this? Oh, it's Skinning of the Souls trade paperback. Cable and X-Force variant. And Uncanny X-Men variant from 2016. And the Venom variant. I can guarantee those are not in the Shattershot oversized hardcover. 488 pages, $44.99. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and page count of each of these books. Let me know in the comments down below which ones you're picking up, if you already have some in the older trade paperbacks, or if you have them in omnibus edition, or if you're hoping one day they reprint some of these books like Shattershot and Fatal Attractions, or just give us a new omnibus line with adjectiveless X-Men. I'd love to know how people collect those. Or if you're happy with the Epic collections, how you're going to collect the trade paperbacks, if you're hoping for oversized hardcovers, or you're fine with trade paperbacks. And then, of course, if you're picking up the Mighty Marvel Masterworks and the Marvelverse books, or this is just the digest size book, for anybody in your family or for yourself. But that's it. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button on the way out. Everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.